right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the What You Don't Hear podcast, a very special and different episode of the show. I'm your host. My name is Ross Tyson. I'm a creative director, a brand builder, a maker and doer of probably too many ideas. But of course, most importantly for this, I'm a podcaster as I bring you these open journal dives into people's lives every other Monday. If you know, you know. In this episode, we're going to take a new type of dive into those lives this week because I wanted to do something a little special for hitting 50 episodes. But before I tell you about that, I want to remind you, of course, that this episode is brought to you by Promo West Productions. That's right, we've got some sponsorships around here. Talking about Columbus's music scene is one thing, but experiencing it is entirely another. So, if you're interested in catching a live show, any that are coming up, check out one of these upcoming concerts at Kemba Live. That's right, Kemba Live, brought to you by Promo West Productions. So, you've got Humphreys McGee on February 17th, Bonobo on February 20th, I sure hope I said that right, Hippocampus on Saturday, March 12th, and Tones and I on Friday, March 18th. If you need to hear any of those again, just hit like the rewind for 15 seconds or something and listen to the listing again. But if you want to purchase tickets to any of those shows, visit axs.com, or for more info, of course, just go over to promowestlive.com. Again, for tickets, visit axs.com, or for more info on these or any upcoming shows, hit promowestlive.com. So, let's dive into what episode 50 of the show this week is going to be. Now, there's honestly a lot to listen to this week. Like I said, I wanted to celebrate a little bit of a milestone of hitting 50 episodes, so I decided to call a handful of guests back onto the show and play a game of We're Not Really Strangers with each of them. So, if you're not familiar with what We're Not Really Strangers is, it's a really cool card game built around deeper or more like thought-provoking questions designed to make you and whoever you're playing with get to know each other like on a whole lot more personal levels. So basically, it's kind of this podcast in card game form, if I'm being honest. So it fits perfectly, and I thought it would be fun to do. So we're breaking the formula of the show a bit this week, but we're bringing in some more, unique or fun questions to chat about with the guests. So this episode is a compilation, actually, of a bunch of these cards and questions with a few different guests and conversations I had with them. It'll jump around from conversation to conversation, but genuinely it worked out exactly as I hoped because everyone was like so down to play the game, and these questions from the cards honestly spawned some like really, really cool talking points. So let's just get to it. Without any further ado, let's hop into episode 50 of What You Don't Hear, and let's play We're Not Really Strangers. So, Leah, my friend, are you ready to play We're Not Really Strangers, even though you and I already are not really strangers anyway? But
yes.
It could
thought you'd never ask.
For some new fun question. You were like, you know what? We talk a lot, so
we'll learn new things about each other, maybe.
Maybe, yes. I haven't really gotten to play this card game with anybody, even though I own it. So this is like a great excuse to do it for the show.
I have so many games like that. Like I have one that What Do You Meme? Have you seen that one like advertised? Yeah. We have that game, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, this would be so much fun. But you can't play with just two people. And then when there's a group of people together, I just don't think, you don't think about like, let's get out some cards.
No.
I don't know why.
Especially
it just
if I'm
doesn't come naturally.
No, if I'm catching up with somebody, my first instinct isn't like, can I bring this card game about our lives? All the secrets?
Well, it would help you catch up, apparently. It's very deep.
It really would. Or get to know somebody for the very first time. So, okay. Are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Let's make it happen. Okay. Question number 1. Okay. We're maybe getting deep right off the bat here.
Okay.
What is a dream you've let go of?
Ooh. Do we both have something that we can say for this?
I think so.
Oh, the beam left.
He
wasn't prepared
for
how deep the question was.
We're talking about letting dreams go here.
Yeah.
It's not about that. Yeah, I'm down for this one.
Okay. I would say for me, like I've had a lot of like ambitions of things that I would like to do or try. From like a pretty young age, I think we all kind of, like when I was a kid, I was like, I'm gonna be a teacher. I'm gonna, I don't know, do plenty of things that I never did. Um, but one of the things that like I feel like I wouldn't know, I don't know if I should say I've given up on it, is actually like having children, like being a parent. I've always been somebody that was like really good with kids. I've always been somebody that was like a designated babysitter. I've been a nanny to multiple families and things like that. And I feel like it's something that I haven't necessarily like let go of for any specific reason other than the fact that I've gotten to a point where I think like I'm like if it did happen someday, like I wouldn't be upset. I'd still be thrilled, but like it's not something I don't think about constantly or actively pursue. And at one point in time, like right off the bat of being married, Nick and I actually did like for a good like portion of a year, like attempt to have a kid. And it just happened to be like a time when I was like, this would be a great time to do this. And it didn't happen. And ever since then, I've had other little things that came up where I was kind of like, oh, career, like let's go to hair school, like let's do these things first. And so now I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm like, I could just not do it and I'd probably be fine with that. So if that counts, I feel like that's kind of the biggest one for me.
Yeah, no, I think that totally counts. I think that that is a great answer. I see. It's like I hear stuff like that, and I'm sitting here like getting annoyed when my cat does something, and I'm like, oh my God, how can I have somebody else around me? Yeah, no, the children
Yeah.
thing is that's definitely that's great, and it's also very interesting to, I don't know, kind of like set that not to the side, but it's like one of those things where you're like,
It's like a big life thing.
yeah, that's
Like,
that's like yeah, very big. And you're like, okay, yeah, if it happens, it happens. But I understand like your explanation of like, yeah, just kind of like setting that to the side and not like getting too like consumed, I guess maybe by
yeah.
the idea or something.
Point
Um,
in time, I've probably changed my mind, like I said, a million times about something like that. Where like when I was a kid or at a certain point in life, I was probably like, I don't want to have kids. And then at one point in my life, I really did want to have kids. And now I'm just kind of back in like well, it's a lot of sleep I'd be missing out on and stuff, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. No, I feel like that's something I go back and forth on too. I'm like, oh man, like I don't know, sometimes I'm like, man, like having a kid would be so amazing. And then
Yeah.
I legit have had, this is 100% real. I have legit had nightmares about having a child. And dude, I am
Is it
literally
always bad?
yes, it's never good. Like it's okay, that might be wrong. I've had dreams where I've had a kid and like I felt this like overwhelming sensation of like love, but
Yeah.
most of them have been nightmares where this is exactly what happens. And then I promise I'll give my real answer to this question. What happens is I'm in my apartment, like literally where I'm at right now, and like everything's a mess. And like like in that dream, I'm like holding the baby and it's crying and there's like stuff everywhere. And like in the dream, I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't get anything done today. I'm so behind on like this. And literally there's one time that I had, it was so weird. In one of those dreams, out loud in the dream, I go, what did I do? Like, why did I decide to do this? Because also the mom, whoever the mom is never there. Never there.
It was probably me. I'm like, no.
You're like, "No, yeah, this is actually me. I'm babysitting your kid. That's what it is. You're like, hey,
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I didn't think this through. Rossi can be
yeah,
my babysitter now. And I
but
made your
forever.
apartment a mess by
Yes.
just handing my kid to you. Because I
So
was like,
it's,
at one point, yeah, I was about this, but now I'm not
yep.
about.
The nightmare, it's always so similar. I'm holding the baby, there's no mom there, so like no girlfriend, no wife or whatever. And in the dream, I literally out loud said, there has to be another dimension somewhere where I didn't decide to do this and I can still live my life. And I'm not kidding.
Oh my
The
God.
3 seconds later, I woke up in real life so
That
relieved.
is like
So relieved.
terrifying. That means
Dude,
there is a Ross out there somewhere that's
you
like
know?
that's like a single dad, like out there struggling, and he is just reaching out to you for
Dude.
help. And he's like, there's got to be another place where I'm like doing a podcast and
Yeah.
like doing all the things I wanted to.
Yes, somewhere. Yeah, in that dimension, that Ross is like, somewhere this is just another Ross's nightmare. I'm that Ross. That's just my nightmare, not the real thing. So yeah, I mean, I go back and forth where I'm like, man, having a kid would be super cool, and then my brain tells me, I don't know. Apparently,
I don't know. That's a
our life
lot.
would change forever. Okay, dreamy like okay, I'll get back to the actual question. Okay, so a dream that I've let go of. Um, it's kind of hard because I don't really know how to answer this sort of because like
You said you had an answer,
so
Ross, so give us your answer.
I do, but my answer is a really like weird one that almost
Well,
isn't.
that's
It's kind of cheating.
okay.
It's kind of cheating.
Well, mine was
Um,
kind of cheating too, because it could still technically happen.
okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So
Mine like
realistically,
yeah,
yeah.
mine is like honestly sort of nothing in a weird way. Like I don't feel like I've let myself let go of any dream that I have yet. Like
Yeah.
I
No,
only
because you do
feel
a
like
lot of things.
yeah, and like I feel like I've done so much work to like kind of optimize my life to be able to do any
All the
avenue that I
things.
yes,
Yeah.
all the things. Like if I cool, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that, whatever. I talk about it probably ad nauseum on this podcast with people. But like I don't know, I feel like I've tried really hard to actually make it so I don't have to let go of any dreams. But
Yeah.
if I were gonna like give a direct answer, maybe it's like being famous or something. You know what I mean? Like maybe like that's a dream.
That's,
I feel like that's
yeah,
I'm
that's
probably
a good
like
one.
I feel like after doing so many things and in learning what even it is to be famous, what that really means, what is
Oh,
success,
yeah.
all those sort of like deep things. I almost feel like maybe if there was a tangible thing I were to give an answer for, maybe it's that. Maybe it's like, I stopped worrying about like
Okay.
trying to be famous. So maybe that's it.
You know what? Nick and I had a conversation about, and then when I say Nick and I, it was probably me talking and him just going,
Like, yeah, cool.
but I was talking to him, I want to say yesterday, because just as like a backstory, so yesterday I dyed Nick's hair for the very first time, and he was so excited, and he was like, celebrities always just look like everything about them so fancy, like they have, all these things about them and blah blah blah. And I was like, what would be just like the best thing ever would be to be like somebody who is like a director, like does all the behind the scenes stuff. And so I feel like you have that same thing where you're like, I want the behind the scenes stuff. Cause I was like, what would suck is like everybody stopping you all the time and you're not just being able to live your life and people expecting you to weigh this much or like have, this shape of your face. Like I'd rather be somebody that like composed music for like movies or did things
Yeah.
like that where like you could be the person that wasn't like ultra famous, like that where people stop you in your tracks, but like you do enough stuff that like, okay, I'm making money doing some cool shit that like I want to do. So
Yes.
I totally, I agree 100%. I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the
No.
older you get, you're probably like, I don't want people in my shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially even with like, social media being what it is and stuff. It's like
It's
you
so
see
important if you want to be any like known thing. Yeah.
right,
Come
right.
here,
And then it's
beans.
like so there's like so many sides to that coin where it's like, okay, well, if you want to be famous, you have to do things to get famous, and I don't like that idea. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I
It's
would
like
just rather
you have to like almost, sorry, my like, look at my earbud. It's like stuck in my hair.
oh, nice.
Um, no, I feel that same way because yeah, it's almost like, yeah, if I were to be, I feel like a good example would be like somebody like Bryce Dallas Howard. She in Jurassic Park like looked beautiful, like played the part really well, all that stuff. But now she's like blossoming as a director, and I feel like she's kind of let go of like the stereotypical like Hollywood stigmas that were probably shoved on her in her roles in things like Jurassic Park or Twilight, where she had to be this like super like figure of just like, you know, perfect hair and, you know, all that different stuff. Like she gets to now, like when you see her interviewing, like in something about something she directed, she looks so comfortable and so much more happy. And it's just, I don't know, like that's what I feel like as you get older, you kind of strive for that, like that creative, like outlet where it's like, I get to do this stuff, but like, I'm not the person people are going to bother about it.
Yeah. No, I think you gave my answer better than I could have. I think all of that makes a ton of sense, and I'm yes, that is 100%
It was just
how I
ironic because like
feel.
we were literally just talking about that, and the fact that you said it,
That's funny.
it really
Yeah.
solidifies, I feel like, kind of like how like everything I was saying.
Yes. No, 100%. That I think now that we've made it make so much sense, that's my answer. That's what I'm going with. Okay, you ready for another one?
Yeah,
Before we talk for 2 hours about
I
this
know. Here
one
we
thing,
go.
because that is what we're good at. Okay, question number 2. What is a compliment you wish you received more frequently?
Ooh,
This one's gonna make us put our confident self-love hats on for a second.
yeah, because I have imposter syndrome, like to a point where it's like I've always kind of tried to be like, yeah, look at all these great things about me, you know, when I was
Yes.
younger, and now I'm like older and I'm like, fuck, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I feel like I don't know. As an artist, at least, I wish that people would think more that like what I'm doing. I feel like in music, a lot of times when people listen to female artists, they compare us to other female artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like almost, I don't know if it would be considered a compliment, but to me, I would consider it a compliment if somebody was just like, wow, you have a unique sound and you're doing something, you know, I've never heard before or something like that. Like, and I feel like I always try to have my very own thing that I do, but it's always kind of like, you know, oh wow, you know, this is kind of got a Paramore vibe to it, or oh, this sounds Evanescence-y or whatever the heck. And it's funny because going into every musical endeavor that I've done, I don't think I've ever really gone into it going, I want it to sound specifically like this. And it was always compared to something else anyway. And so I I hope at some point that something I create will achieve that. But yeah, I wish that people could look at my work and say like, "Oh, that's something you're doing and that's cool because this is your sound and it is its very own thing and it doesn't need to be compared to, you know, another vocalist that happens to be a female, you know, because there's more than just that in the world of music." So,
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I definitely, I for sure, I don't even have to have heard it to know that yes, people are absolutely like, oh, this sounds like insert other female band that I know of. Like, yeah. So
yeah.
I feel you on that. I feel like mine's kind of a strange roundabout answer that I'll try and kind of put together. Like, I feel like okay, I'll start it like this. For example, people will sit and be like, "Oh, you know, like some of the stuff you post like inspires me, or it makes me think of this, or oh, that conversation you had on the podcast like made me, you know, learn this or understand this perspective or whatever." And all those things are like, that's awesome. Those are great things that I love to hear.
Yeah.
But in a roundabout way, like I don't even, kind of like you were saying, like I don't know if this is necessarily a compliment, but I feel like I want people to almost like share that they believe in what I'm doing more. Like
Okay.
kind of like reaffirm. Like it's not just because like again, people can say, oh, the podcast episode was cool, or that video you posted was cool, or there's something like quality of the visual you made. Like, okay, cool. Like, I get that. Like, thank you. Those are fun compliments. But I think like I don't always feel like I have actual support from people, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you mean, because it's one thing to just be like, oh yeah, that thing you did was cool, but like I feel like this is probably just a creative thing in general. Like a lot of creatives, like, and like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be the podcast or it's just generally, I feel like creatives have that same thing where we're all kind of like, oh, like you say that you find what I'm doing cool, but like you're not at the shows, or you're, you know what I mean? Like, or you're not buying the product, or you're, you know, like those kinds of things where it's almost like you can tell people care about your feelings by saying, hey, what you're doing, you know, I know what you're doing. Like they're like specifically pointing out like, oh, I listened to this episode of your podcast, or things like that, which goes to show like, hey, they did tune in, and that is a form of support. But yeah, almost like by means of just being like, if it inspired you, like, could you share it? Like, could you show people? Like, maybe they do, and we don't know, you know, I that there's a possibility where people are just like, oh, like, you know, maybe they're going around telling people and they're not just texting you every time like, oh, I told so-and-so about what you said, but like, it would almost be cooler to be behind the scenes sometimes and be like, oh, like I almost feel more complimented when somebody goes, I showed someone, you know, your music and they said this, or so on and so forth. Like, I totally get what you mean, because it's almost like it's almost like a craving, like a creative craving, like
Yeah, it's not even like, and obviously again, the whole purpose of the question being formed the way it is to make you think like, what do I wish people like? I want more compliments, but it's like, I feel like I just want to try and sum it up. It's like, it's not about like the social media attention or anything like that. It's more so almost just like genuine acknowledgement. What would make me feel better if I got to hear it more. Like, again, it's past the like, hey, that thing you made was cool. But also, and no one would actually give a compliment this way, because no one would say this because it's weird. But like, almost in a roundabout way, it's like I kind of wish there was a way for someone to tell me or show me or something, like for them to say like, you're showing me that I can believe in you. Like, does you know you get what I'm saying? Like no one would ever word that way. But like,
well, I feel like it's definitely makes sense, but I think in a roundabout way, maybe that's what they're trying to say is like, hey, like, you know, I really believe in what you're doing because what you said during this episode really stuck with me. And maybe that's like their way of saying it, you know, instead of just outright being like, you know, like, we got to get this out there. Like, we got to, you know, like, this deserves to be heard by the world.
Of course. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I think in whatever that thrown together answer was that went all over the place, I think maybe that's mine. It's hard to say what you wish people complimented you on more.
I know. I'm like, I wish I could just be like, I don't know, my hair.
Like, I wish people told me I was hot as fuck all the time. Like, what?
I wish people were just like, hey, you know what? You're really fucking hot.
Yeah. Like, I wish just people would notice. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'm uncovering some deep-rooted thing where I'm just like, I just wish people would acknowledge me. Like, what's happening? But like you said, I think that's every creative doing anything, or anybody doing anything realistically.
It's one of those things, and I feel like you probably feel this way anytime you put out a new episode of something, every time you release a new, like, video that you worked on, like something that you put a lot of like time and effort into. It's like, you know, it might get like the initial traction of like people maybe like liking it on social media or something, but then it's like, all right, life just goes back to normal and nobody really says anything or cares about the fact that like I just did this thing. Like, yeah, you liked it, yeah, you commented and said, hey, this is cool, but like, I don't know, like, it feels like there needs to be more like that comes after how much work you put in sometimes.
Right, right. Yeah, because I mean, face value or simple social media compliments or just a regular surface level compliment, like I don't know, I feel like it's easy for those things to just feel fleeting in a way. It's like somebody can compliment you and you're like, that's awesome. But then it's like that moment in time kind of goes away. So maybe like that's kind of the answer is like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it really is, but just more like genuine compliments maybe or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like,
Everything today almost feels a little bit like empty. Like
yeah.
I know that might sound stupid, but it feels like almost like everything nowadays is almost like more like hollow compliments, because even though somebody might be like, "Hey, this sounds super cool," like they could be scrolling down their entire thing and writing, "Hey, this is super cool" on everybody's stuff. You
Right.
know what I
Fire
mean? I
emoji,
do that.
fire emoji.
I feel like I do that all the time, and it's not necessarily because I don't genuinely actually think those things or like those
Same.
things, but
Yeah.
because it's so easy to just click a button to show that you like something or that you appreciate something or that you support something. There's not really like a more personal way like that's generally shown like
Yep.
about like, hey, I really like what you're doing.
Yep. There was something, not to keep trailing off into this, but like I can't remember where I saw it. I feel like cast, but like there was something that somebody shared once that was like, every time you think something nice about somebody, I challenge you to tell them. And like ever since I
Okay.
heard that, like I've literally almost tried to like let that help guide me, at least even on just like social media or something, because it's easy, like you're
Yeah.
scrolling or you're tapping through stories and you might be like, oh, that's cool, that's neat, whatever. I've literally tried to like almost kind of reprogram myself a little bit to even make those sort of things or my use of social media more meaningful when I can, of like if I'm tapping through something and I see somebody do something cool or something creative or something that they're proud to share or whatever, and I think, oh, that's cool, or oh, I'm happy for them. I make myself take those few extra moments, type out that DM or go send a text or whatever it may be to try and let them know, hey, I saw that thing. I'm really trying to acknowledge it. I had this thought nice about you, so here's me sharing
Yeah.
it. Like ever since I heard that, I've been trying to kind of like really carry that into like if I'm having a thought, why wouldn't I say it?
Yeah, and I feel like I've kind of tried to do the same thing as of late. Not necessarily like an exact like in an exact way, but like if I see like somebody like I have a friend, for example, that struggles with like anxiety and depression, who today made a TikTok basically like she was kind of laughing and she was like, I am a little embarrassed to say this, but like I haven't brushed my hair in like 10 days and I finally did. And like here's this like ball of hair basically. And so I have her Amazon on Amazon. I have her address as like one of the addresses in my thing, because every now and then when she and I like see that the other is going through something, we'll actually send something to each
Oh,
other.
that's
So
so cool.
I sent her a hairbrush, like my favorite hairbrush that I use in the salon for detangling today. And then like another little gift that she'll probably get in the next like day or so that's less like about funny stuff, but um just like a little something that I thought like for Christmas or whatever. But like
Yeah.
I have like I have lots of friends that like I don't know, like I feel like if I know it's their birthday, for example, or even if I see like on Facebook if I'm reminded it's somebody's birthday, I try now as like an adult to like send a text message
Hmm.
instead of just being like, okay, like here's me writing on your wall with like 80 other strangers that like
Yeah.
have probably never met you. And then same thing with like you said, like you think something nice or you, I don't know, appreciate something that they posted or so on and so forth. Like I feel like I've kind of tried to do the same thing where it's
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, like let me actually reach out and make a point to say something about the fact that like I'm thinking about you. And even
Yep.
if it's nothing more than just, hey, I was thinking about you. I wanted to say hi and make sure you're doing okay. I feel like we need so much more of that in the world. So
Yep.
that's, I mean, that's a really awesome thing to adopt. I feel like to have that principle of just being like, you know what, like if I want more of that in my life as well, which all of us I think do. Like,
Of course.
I have a friend that like she actually sends physical mail. Like she will send. I have a card. I literally still have it. She probably sent it like a year ago. It's literally a card. It's like this big that she sent in the mail, and it just said, "Here's a card." Literally, it was just. It was like the small, but it's something that it was just like, hey, somebody was thinking about you in that moment, and I received like a physical confirmation that like, hey, like you're here.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm thinking about you, and I care about you. Like those kinds of things make a difference to people, and I feel like if more people were going outside of the bounds of social media and actually making a point to be like, I'm thinking about you, I appreciate what you're doing and what you're creating, or just that you're around, like I feel like the world just in general would be such a better place.
Yep. I could any better. Okay. Ready for the final card here? Final one?
Let's go.
It's probably like we build it up after all these like deep.
I know it's going to be like, what's your favorite kind of French fry?
Yeah, exactly. This one will be
curly
like
fries,
sweet or sour. Which one do you prefer? You want ketchup or mustard? Oh, okay. This one is actually very cool. I love this one. It is not ketchup or mustard or favorite French fries. Although if you would like to share, you can share that.
Curly fries.
Curly fries. There it is. What about the smiley face fries? The big, like, basically
potatoes.
Like
in elementary school, like just full on potato, and like
a
the
potato
skin
pancake
is like
with a face.
The skin is like hardly there, but like it's like mushy. It's like mashed potatoes, but in like skin.
Exactly. It's like if someone
I don't
put
know
mashed potatoes in a person, you know?
Yeah, because it's a smiley face. Maybe they did. Who knows?
You know what? I'm just, to promote this episode, I'm just clipping that part of you being like, it's like mashed potatoes in skin. Boom, new episode out now. Okay. For real, I love this question. I'm excited to hear what you say. So, what title would you give this chapter in your life?
Oh, man. I don't know if this is cheating, but I would say transitioning. Like, I feel like I'm that Britney Spears song where she's like, I'm not a girl, not yet a woman. You know, that Britney Spears song what is that? Crossroads? Was that the name of that like movie she was in?
Oh,
anyway,
I don't know.
I feel like I'm at this point where I'm trying to, and I don't know if this is something that I have to come to terms with, or if it's something that I am just building up in my head, but I feel like and I touched on this a little bit earlier, I feel like I'm at this point where I have to choose between security or like doing the things that I want to do when I want to do them. Because I feel like I'm getting to an age where, you know, I'm not on my parents' health insurance anymore, or, you know, I have to work a full-time job in order to pay the bills that I've accrued over my lifetime. And as much as I don't want that to define like my entire existence at this point in time, I feel like part of like what I'm going through and what I think a lot of people can relate to around the age of like 30-ish is like, oh, like starting to relate more to my parents, and like I'm starting to have these like things where I'm kind of like, oh, like, am I supposed to be looking into like life insurance? Like, it's like all these stupid, boring things that I never wanted to care about, and never like felt like it would ever happen to me where I needed to care about these stupid little things. But like, it's gotten to a point where like we have to. And so it's like trying to balance, and this is an ongoing thing I think for everybody from the moment you become an adult till you die, probably, is you always probably feel like you're like not quite where you want to be, but like you're getting there maybe. Yeah. So I feel like even just going into this year, like I have music that I'm working on. And so in that field of my life, I feel like I'm in a good place. I'm doing things that I want to do, but also I look at the place that I am like now, having like a career where, you know, I should be able to support myself and my life choices and my lifestyles and everything. And I should be able to like take care of myself without being like, hey mom, I need help. So as much as like it's boring to say, like I feel like if I had to label where I'm at right now, and probably where I always feel like I am, is just like in the middle somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. And I feel like my answer is based off of that same idea. And it's probably because, you know, we're always growing up and everyone's always identifying like, oh, I'm constantly changing and stuff. Like, so I don't know, for me to title mine, like, you know, I want to say something simple, just like the growth or, you know, evolution or something
Yeah.
like that. But
The
it's
evolution of Ross.
right. But it's like, because I feel like, I feel like in the last like 2 or so years, I weird to say or saying it the wrong way or something, but like I literally feel like I have been changing and growing like faster than I ever have before.
Yeah,
Like
and I
I
think it might be
legitimately
the pandemic, but I think we've all kind of felt that. Yeah.
right, right. It's like I feel like genuinely every like 3 to 4 months, like I feel like I quote unquote like level up. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I gain a new perspective on something. I learn something new. I gain a new skill. I accomplish, you know, something else. And yes, sure, like if you're like me and you're working, you know, 90% of your time all the time, of course there's going to be progress made. But like, I don't know, to me it just feels like lately that more and more and more, and there's a lot less waiting around of like, not so much that I was waiting before, but I don't know, there's just less like wonder and more just doing.
Okay.
And I don't know. I just feel like I'm constantly growing and like I also feel like I've never been closer to a lot of my goals. And like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do to title it. I love the Twilight Zone. I oddly remember a lot of their episode titles. So
Okay.
I'm gonna steal one from that to sum this up because I think I can make it make perfect sense. Constantly growing, constantly working, all this sort of stuff. And I have never felt closer to a lot of my goals or dreams than I have right now. So I would title this chapter Walking Distance because for the first time
Okay.
ever, I feel like I'm within walking distance to a lot of the things that I want.
Okay.
Where I still like totally, I don't know
I
exactly
like
how
that.
far away they are. You know what I mean? I don't, it's not like it's right around
Yeah.
the turn or it's right through the door. But this is the closest where I feel like I'm like, no, no, no. The goals, like the real things we want to start accomplishing, I feel like it's just down the road. Like I feel like it's within walking distance. So I'm gonna steal a Twilight Zone episode
I
and
like
title
that.
mine
Walking
Walking Distance.
distance. Yeah. I feel like
So
that's a
that's
good
mine.
one. That's a good title.
So yeah, that's I'm stealing it. I'm gonna steal it, make it official on this podcast. That's mine. That's the
TM.
chapter. TM by me
Take
for the
that.
podcast. Take that Twilight Zone. Even though
Yeah.
I'm a big fan, and I don't want to do anything wrong.
Hey, the
Well,
Twilight Zone, if you see this,
oh, if they're
send us
watching this,
money.
well, yeah, if you listen, if you're watching this,
Send help.
yeah, you can listen. You can send Leah money or whatever she wants. Send me the opportunity to come direct some new episodes of the Twilight Zone. That's what I want. That's what I want.
I wanna compose music for the Twilight Zone.
And that, yes,
Let's do
look,
that.
that's
Let's
perfect.
just make new Twilight Zone episodes. You can direct
That is
them,
perfect.
and I'll write the music for them.
Did it. We talked about all the things. I'm like going into this, I've been so unsure, and I'll probably say this 100 times to every guest, but like I've been like unsure of how this would work because normally I love having conversations in person. One,
Yeah, of
but
course.
two, I'm also like, are people going to be engaged like with like me just pulling a question from a pack of cards and being like,
No,
well,
this is
tell me about
honestly
this?
a
Like,
really great idea. I feel like this is like the kind of thing that a podcast like is built, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, let me
yeah,
ask you these questions, because we always go back and forth and just talk in general, but like to have like like a general idea of something like to talk about, instead of like, you know, us where we just go off topic and then it
Right.
flutters away into God knows what after
Yes.
a little bit. Like, I feel like you hit the nail on the head. This was a really good prompt, we'll call it. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
Activity.
that makes sense. I'm happy to hear you say that, because I never want to waste anyone's time with a conversation. So I always want them to enjoy
How dare you, sir?
How dare you? I was eating dinner in my yellow chair and you wanted to talk about...
was preoccupied.
I love it. Well, Leah, thank you so much for coming back on the show again. It's been 50 episodes, and I feel like you've been on 45 of them at least.
Oh, man. I mean, maybe in the background, you know, I was like lurking.
Yeah.
Nobody knew, but like...
No, that's what you were like, I want to talk. Why am I not in the studio?
Why isn't my microphone on? Are you like throwing...
Yeah.
Get back.
Like, Leah,
Let someone else have a turn.
It's someone else's turn for this. But seriously, this was a blast. I'm glad you had fun. I mean, it's always fun when we can sit and just rant and talk about stuff. But again, I haven't gotten to play this card game with anybody, so I'm glad I'm getting to do it with this. And I'm super stoked that you were down. So thank you so very much.
Anytime, my friend. I love card games.
I love it. Well, maybe sometime.
And our conversation.
Sometime I can just come over. I'll bring the entire deck of cards. Me, you, and Nick, and whoever else can actually sit down and just play it IRL.
Human interaction?
What is
this?
But yeah, this was super fun.
Yay.
I super appreciate this.
I super appreciate you having me.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Well, dude, cool. It is wonderful to see and talk to you again.
Yeah, it's been a minute, right?
Yeah, it's, I mean, that was, when was your episode? 2020?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I couldn't remember if it was last year, which I'm forgetting is 2021. Like, that's
I know.
kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah, there's a couple blurred years here where I'm like, it could have been this time, it could have been that time. Like, I have no idea. And so I don't know if you're familiar with the card game We're Not Really Strangers.
Well, actually, I will tell you this. I think we talked about it the OG time of the podcast,
yeah.
And I think you had the idea, and so this is the only time you're the only person who's ever told me about this game.
Okay, well, that works out because we're about to play it together.
Oh boy, so, I love that. A game I have no idea about. Like, it's, why not?
We are now coming full circle. Well, David, if you are down and ready, let's play a quick game of We're Not Really Strangers.
Let's play it.
Here we go. Card number 1. What part of your life works and what part of your life hurts?
Ooh.
We're diving off the deep end immediately.
Okay, so I've never played this game before, and so I'm just wondering if this is like an abnormally like cutting card, or are they all going to be like this? I'm so curious. Works and hurts. It's weird because I want to say it's like, I think it's like oddly like the same. Like anything that I find I'm like interested in or passionate about, and that can be anything from like, I'm always like messing around with different diets or trying to be active with, fitness and stuff. And I feel like I gravitate towards things that are like slightly punishing. So like, for instance, I'm like, I've been trying to do this fasting thing for a while, and like some days it sucks, but it's the thing that I'm like really interested in, and I'm wondering if it's because it kind of sucks. So maybe my answer is it has to hurt a little bit to work a little bit.
That's good. That's solid. That's okay. I'm with that. I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel like mine I feel like is when I think about it, I feel like mine are very actually specific examples.
Okay. Less abstract.
No, that's great though. That's totally great. Mine I feel like in an odd way, what works is the work I do.
Sure.
like the fact that I've made, this stuff like at least a career trajectory that I'm on, and I'm able to kind of work for myself and do all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I feel like the creative side, it flows really easily. I'm always like ready and willing and always have the energy to do that stuff. If I would say a part that hurts, I'm going to get real deep. I'm going to throw something at you. We're diving.
Okay, we're swimming the deep end, baby.
I would say if there was something that hurts, I feel like a lot of the times I feel pretty alone, if I'm being completely honest. Now, let me explain.
Yeah, I'm curious what this means. What kind of alone?
Yeah, so like, I mean, I have plenty of friends. I have plenty of people who are supportive. I have, all that sort of stuff. But I think there's kind of like that, I don't know, almost like the characters you see in a movie where they do all this stuff throughout the day, and then as soon as they go home, they're like, okay, like, I don't know, a lot of really good stuff happened today, but I still for some reason just feel alone at the end of the day. Like that's sort of like how it is. And like, I don't know, there's also a part of me, as silly as this is to say, I feel like for the first time in years, I'm also like, you know what? I'd like to have a girlfriend for once. Like, because I set that sort of stuff aside for years because I was like, it's work time. I need to work on me.
Yeah.
I need to, like, I take that whole, like, in order to love somebody else, you have to love yourself thing. I take that like really seriously. So I'm like, I want to work on me.
Yeah.
And now I feel like the fact that I haven't focused on those sorts of things for a couple of years, I feel like maybe that's what's like creeping up now, to where I'm like, I almost feel like I want to share this stuff that I'm doing or this life that I'm building. I feel like I'm like, I kind of want to share that with somebody else.
Well, that kind of answers
like, you know what I mean?
my question too, because you said you felt alone, but I always like to ask the question, alone, depending on who you are, isn't always a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like some people, like I think I kind of put myself in that boat. Like, when I'm with people, I'm loving it. We're having a grand time. We're doing massive stuff. We're doing creative stuff. We're hanging out. We're having a blast. But when I do get to come back and be alone, sometimes I will feel very alone. But then sometimes I'm like, this feels so good. Not always, but like sometimes that alone is precious.
Yeah. I think there's like just a tiny part of it that creeps up to me that's like just some strange kind of aloneness. Because again, like I love alone time.
Yeah, right. Just making sure how we're assigning this.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% like when it's that alone, like physically alone, I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, yes, I want to just chill in my apartment all day. This is great. I've got my own space, my own time. But yeah, I think if I were conjuring up an answer for that one, that would be it. I think the works part is like the life that I'm building, but the alone part is some inner thing.
Kind of hurts.
I don't know. Maybe that kind of hurts. So there it is. Look at this. We're already getting to know each other pretty well.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Like this. So this is the second time we've talked. First time in this format of video. But I feel like who was I telling this to? I was like, I'd always known of Ross, and we kind of run in like adjacent circles or whatever. And I was like, it was supernatural. I just came on the not supernatural like a ghost, but it was very natural in that right. We talked for a couple hours on the podcast, and then after the podcast we hit stop, and then we hung out and talked for 2 more hours. It was just like we were just clicking. I don't know.
Yep. Well, see here, at least these cards are bringing out my answers too, so it's not just you telling your life story to me.
Right.
Now.
Which I love this.
Level playing.
I love this.
Yes. Okay, let's hop in the next card. Okay. What is something you wouldn't want to change about yourself?
Ooh, okay. So I think this question, it hints at something that maybe someone assumes you would. I don't know.
Right.
Let me think. That's interesting. Because I feel like there's some things I would change. Honestly, no. I'm just gonna double down on this. Okay, so if anyone who's ever met me in person, I'm a little below average height, to put it nicely, and like I've always just kind of had to like, I don't know. I'm a front man in a band, so like I think a lot of times they don't think that is like my position. I should be like, oh, you should be over there playing bass, or you should be doing something else. So like it's, you know, it's kind of oddly specific, but like being a confident guy on stage is like, I think it's something that I've had to work at. And, you know, just like, I think me always being like a little bit of like a Napoleon complex has like kind of helped me through my whole life. Just be kind of like, yeah, it's not, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog or whatever it is. Whatever it is. Whatever. Because like, that was it. Like things like that. Like, you know, so like, I mean, that's very superficial, and like, honestly, it's kind of weird for me to even like bring that up, because I feel like I don't, you know, my normal guys is I don't care about superficial things. But like, yeah, most people are probably like, I bet David wishes he was he was a little bit taller, which like, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
that's perfectly fine. No, that totally makes sense. I'm with you in that same boat, you know.
Right.
Where I'm like, I'm pretty short, but I'm also like, I don't know.
We just own it. We just own it. We're just like the little. We're like the, you know, we can fit in small places. We can like, you know,
exactly.
we can own a Porsche. You know.
You're right. You're right. Especially, hey, for tours. You know, when tours are happening, I can be crammed in a van.
I tell you what, I am always comfortable. Like, you know, it's like, oh, there's just a tiny little bench in the van. It's like a queen bed to me. You know?
You're like, well, there's so much space here. I can do so much.
I have room for all the activities.
Exactly. Everyone else is like, I can't even sit here with my DS.
Right.
And you're like, no. I got a whole living room set up here. I think mine would be something that I feel like I've talked with people pretty often about, to be honest. Like it's kind of a blessing and a curse sort of thing, but it's something that when it comes down to it, I would choose to not ever change. It's probably my like overly ambitious like mind and attitude.
Sure.
If that's like makes sense. Because I don't know, I want to just try and do and make an experience like as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where I am like, dude, I wish I could just wake up and not have a single creative thought. I don't even want ambitions anymore. Like, I wish I could just wake up one day and just like literally not care. But when it really came down to it, I am very happy that that's how I am, and that my mind is always kind of racing and thinking of new things and wanting to get involved with people in different ways and try all this new stuff. And so, yeah, I think even though it can feel like a curse sometimes, I feel like my answer would be kind of like my overly ambitious mind is something that in the end I wouldn't want to change.
That's awesome.
Card number 3. You ready?
I hope so.
Let's do it. Okay. What would your younger self not believe about your life today?
Oh, man. Let me think. Well, man, that's interesting. I feel like I've had like a singular goal since I was like, I don't know, a wee lad in like, I don't know, junior high school. Like I've only just ever wanted to be a musician and, you know, write songs, perform on stage, travel the country. So like, the thing is though, I'm wondering if that younger me actually, if they would have believed it, or if it was just a wish, if it was just a pipe dream, you know, that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
So I don't know if I can even answer that with that. I don't know. Maybe it is that. Maybe it would have been that. It just would have been like, yeah, I'm wishing, but you know, stuff doesn't always go the way you planned, and you know, and I can't say that's 100% gone the way that I thought things would go or anything like that. But but yeah, I think I want to believe my younger self would still be like, yeah, I thought this might be in the cards, but like it's pretty damn cool that like it actually was in the cards. And like maybe the thing that would be the most surprising would be my younger self realizing what the work actually entails. Because I do think that idea is usually pretty romanticized when like my younger self was thinking about being a musician and what a musician did and what a day-to-day looked like. And what was important, what wasn't important, and how hard rejection would be, and how many no's you would hear before you heard a yes, and things like that. So maybe it's more like the inner workings of the pipe dream and what it actually entails. I think that might be surprising, or wouldn't be believable to my younger self.
Yeah. Honestly, this might be cheating for this game, but pretty much everything you
Don't
said...
you steal my answer. Don't you steal my answer.
I feel like that's at least in the same ballpark as my answer. And I think even simplifying my answer maybe is more so just like... I think just probably that I do a bunch of different forms of art technically, like, for a living.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I was a kid, I was, like, super artsy. You wouldn't find me anywhere without, like, a sketch pad and a pencil and all this sort of stuff. Like, I was always tucked away in a corner, kind of doing my own thing, like drawing, all these sort of things, and making all my own stories. So I think that would probably be the thing. If my younger self was seeing me now and be like, oh, you actually, in different ways, like, yeah, you don't sit and draw all the time, but you do all this other art stuff, and it's actually like what your life is actually kind of built on and surrounded by. So yeah, kind of in that same basis of just like identifying like, oh, the things we were actually interested in, hold on, you're actually doing it? Like that's awesome.
Yeah, or so, like I feel like it, like, both his answers hinge upon like the naivety or like just the singularity of which that like we latch onto things as a kid. Like, I'm going to do, like, you know, I'm going to be an illustrator, or I'm going to draw, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to do this singular thing. But as you approach that singular thing, it widens out into this huge spectrum of like a lot of things you're interested in and want to do. Some of them are just, you just got to do this, or it's like that's just the way the business works and things like that. So it's like from a distance, it looks like a single point, you know, but like as you get to it, you're like, oh my gosh, it wasn't one tree, it was a forest, you know.
Yes, 100%. That's you sit and you're like, this is the thing I'm going to do, and then you realize like, oh, there's like 100 different ways I can do that. There's 100 different ways to be successful in doing that. Your idea of success changes along the way. Like, yes, 100%. All right, dude. One last card.
Okay.
Are you ready? One last card. Here we go. Finish the sentences.
Okay.
Strangers would describe me as blank, but only I know that I am blank.
Oh, man. Like, there's some wishful thinking attached to this one. Like, I would...
Strangers think I'm hot as shit, but only I know I'm pretty hot.
It's like diminutive. Like, I'm only acting a little hot. No. I don't know. I'm trying to think, because again, like it's about like that first impression versus the grand reveal. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I'm just like overly cautious. Like, for instance, when I first meet people, so they're strangers, like I'm always worried that I'm gonna come off like like too snarky or like too I don't know, sarcastic, when like that's kind of like a defense mechanism with people I don't know. Like, I just want to be like, oh, I'm cutting, I'm funny, but like, I don't know, like, and maybe they don't even see that. Maybe they're like, oh, he's just a funny guy, but maybe, or actually, no, I know exactly what it is. A lot of times when I meet people, I'm like worried about being like too heady or like just like nerdy or something, and so like sometimes I try and like dumb myself down just to be like real, just like vanilla, blend into the crowd. Okay. And so like I think sometimes I'll put on a guise of like, hey, just be like as vanilla or as like bro-y as you can be, you know, and so I feel like if I'm being successful in that, strangers will think, oh, this is just like a normal vanilla guy over here, don't worry about him. But then I know that I'm at least a little bit not vanilla. I don't know. You know, I'm trying to think. A lot of times when I meet new people. And this is mostly outside of like music and things like that. Typically when you're running and when you're on tour and things like that, you get to kind of own all those interactions and things. But like when I'm just out in like the wild and in the real world, you know, not on tour, not on stage, not in my element, I do like catch myself just like trying to like become like that everyman, you know, just that one of the guys in the crowd. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you know? That I feel that a lot. I 100% understand what you're saying. Like I feel like mine is, because I've been told this when I've met people sometimes, not all the time, but I've definitely heard it where people are like, "Oh, you're like way easier to talk to."
Oh yeah,
and you seem intimidating on the internet.
Oh.
And I don't think like it's never like oh, you seem mean or you seem anything like that. Right. I think it's just from what I've gathered from hearing that from people sometimes, it's like because I do so many different things and there's all these like cool visuals and all this sort of stuff that I'm like, yeah, this is like the art, this is the put together part of my life, this is like what social media is for anybody. It's the flashiness, right? But I you know, obviously I try and use mine in a very kind of like still being open and honest and authentic way. But I think that's kind of what I've heard is almost that it seems I seem so put together because I'm doing all these things that they're like, oh, there's no way we could even have a conversation. You don't care about my idea, when I'm like, no, I probably care too much about your idea. I want to talk about it. And in a way, it almost makes me want to say that like, given how I present, you know, all the things that I do, or, you know, hosting a podcast, like somebody could look at that and be like, this dude really loves to hear himself talk, doesn't he?
Well, maybe a little bit, but whatever, you know.
Yeah, maybe just 2 hours every other week. Like, what's the big deal? I don't know. I would almost say maybe strangers could maybe say that I seem full of myself, but only I know that I'm actually like, at least I hope, not at all.
Yeah.
Like I really never want to actually come off that way. And I always want to have those real conversations with people. I always want to have those, you know, like, yeah, let's talk about a card game or no card game. Let's talk about all your goals, all your fears, all your dreams. Yeah. Like I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I answered that.
I think so too. And also I don't think you're full of yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I needed to hear. That wasn't even a card. I made it up just to see what kind of compliment you get. No, yeah, dude, that was great. Well, dude, we just played a game of We're Not Really Strangers. So
who won? Is there a winner? Or we both won?
That's the real winners were the friends we made along the way.
Right.
The stronger friendship we made along the way. Dude, David, I seriously appreciate you taking the time out of your night to sit down with me again, even if it's virtually, and chatting for a few minutes, playing this game that you only knew about based off of me telling you about it.
Also, the last time you might have invented this game, and this is your like launch of it. Like, like maybe I can get into Target if I get enough people talking about this game. Like, I'm
like, okay, the next card right here in this stack of. I wish I invented this game. This is a game that I will 100%. I've been saying it in all these conversations, but I'm like, I feel like this is a thing that everybody should own.
It is pretty cool. Like I really dig the concept, and I think this is very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, it's super dope. But yes, again, dude, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We did it.
I didn't need to, so there's.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. But we're
so I was like,
here.
Oh, how old am I right now? And I lost my glasses, so I couldn't really see what was happening. So I'm like, wow, Grandma Sarah over here.
That is the ultimate mix of old person moves. Not only are you struggling with like, wait, did I need to update the Chrome? It says I need to, and then you're like, I can't see if it tells me I need to. I don't have my glasses.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
I love that. Wow, that's so good. Well, you made it. We're here.
I made it.
You made it in. Well, first off, friend, how are you?
I'm okay.
Good. Yeah, living two double mom life now.
2 kids, it's a lot, man.
That is wild. Well, I appreciate you making the time to talk to me again for like the 100th time and come do a podcast with Ross some more.
I love it. It's great.
I've been doing, so I guess I'll start with, are you familiar with We're Not Really Strangers at all?
No.
Okay,
I'm not really a game person.
So I'm not either, but like basically it's like this new card game that, like, the simplest way I can put it is like it's this podcast if it were a card game. So,
okay,
like,
I did look at the website that you sent, and it seems cool. Like, I think I would, well, yeah, I'm going to play the game, but, like, you know what I'm saying?
Like,
if someone
in
was
real
like,
life,
you want to
like
play
you
this game? I would probably do it, yeah.
Yeah. Now I know for the next special episode, I wanted us all to play Monopoly, so I guess.
Oh, God. When I was like 10, my grandma used to make us play Monopoly, which is like, bless her heart, but she wanted to spend time with my brother and I, and we would be playing for like 2 hours. And I was like, can we just quit, please?
Yeah, the listeners of the show are going to be real stoked when they see the Monopoly episode come out. They're like, all right, a 6-hour episode. Great. I guess. This is cool. So, Sarah, are you ready to play We're Not Really Strangers?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. And it's nothing like Monopoly. We will not be here for hours.
Thank God.
I promise. Okay, card number 1. What has been your earliest recollection of happiness? That's hard. That's a hard one.
Hard one. Okay, I got it. So, I use this a lot when I meditate too. Like, I go to this space. When I was a little kid, my grandma lived like in the backwoods. Literally, she lived off of a dirt road, and she had like a lot of property, and there was like woods around her house. And she had this like little fort built, and her, my brother, and I would walk down to this little fort, and I would like wear all of her like grandma-y aprons, like dress up like a pioneer, and like
love it.
Take a broom down there and like sweep the dirt floor of this little fort. And that is like, that was like the most fun to me. And I think I was like 4 or 5. That's
so okay. I love that. I love Pioneer Sarah. That's great.
Yes.
That's so good. Honestly,
yours?
if you're ever back on for more 15-minute Fridays or something, that's your new title in all the shows. Like Pioneer Sarah, back to talk about.
Okay. Here for it.
No, I love that though. Mine, I think. It's very, very simple, but like one that comes to mind is like nothing crazy happened, but my uncle, who actually like passed away when I was like 5 or 6, he was a firefighter. And I mean, this had to be when I was 4 or 5 or something. I remember just like this day, or at least a couple hours, that I got to go like spend with him at the fire station he worked at.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I have this like, so yeah, as like a little kid, you're like at this fire station. It's so sick. And I have this distinct memory of us chilling in the back, like the open back of like one of like the fire trucks or an ambulance. And just like eating bologna sandwiches for lunch together.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And so I would say that's probably mine. And there's like, it's cool because there's like this picture that was taken that day of us like both giving like a thumbs up at the camera. So there's like little me in this like little fire hat thing, like sitting there.
That's
so like
adorable.
that. So it's like I have that picture to always remember that by, but like I can still remember like being there and like and hanging out and eating bologna sandwiches. So yeah. I think that's my answer. That's
I love
mine.
that. That's adorable.
All right. Next one. Has a stranger ever changed your life?
No. I don't think so.
That's You know what?
I'm trying to think. Like, there's been a lot of course, stuff on the internet that's like really inspirational and stuff like that. Maybe books that I've read, but nothing that's like.
I walked past this person on the street.
You know, nothing like that. No.
See, I think that would be my answer too. Is like, I don't have that direct like, oh, this stranger on the street pulled me back from a car wrecking into me or something crazy. Mine would be that same thing. Like the podcast Short Story Long, which I can't remember if you and I have ever talked about before.
I have heard of it, but I don't.
But it's hosted by Chris Paff, or aka Drama, from like the show Robin Big and Fantasy Factory and all that sort of stuff. If I were to like pick something, I mean, technically he's a stranger, even though he's famous and all that sort of stuff. But mine would be kind of similar to what you were saying. Like, there's stuff on the internet that people have made that have significantly changed my life or changed our lives in some way. So I feel like we can use that cheat of an answer. Because I think that would be mine. Would be truly, I think it would be Drama in the Short Story Long podcast, because when I started listening to that, it's the same concept pretty much as What You Don't Hear. And that like kind of opened me up to a lot of like people's life stories and perspectives, and it truly made me like learn so much about business and life and everything in between. So if I were to credit something, I would genuinely say, since he's a stranger to me at least, I would say that he changed my life. I would say that.
If that's an acceptable answer, then my thing would be the Forks Over Knives documentary. That's all about plant-based eating and like how it's good for your body and the environment, and that would be it. Because after watching that, I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, and I'm sure we've probably talked about this before, but like, was that kind of the first thing that you like watched that was about like a plant-based world that you were like, oh, now I'm seeing things differently?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, I think those answers, at least, I mean, listen, I didn't make the game, but I am making the rules of how we play the game. So I'm going to say those are acceptable answers, even if they're hugely popular things. All right. Card number 3. What are you still trying to prove to yourself?
This is going to sound really general, but just that I'm good enough.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, I feel like for the most part, people can, they associate with the lie, like you're not good enough or you're too much. And my lie has always been, you're not good enough. Yeah.
I think my answer would be pretty much similar. I think if I were to add to it on my side of things, I think like if there was one big answer I'm looking for that I'm trying to find as proof, would be that like I'm not crazy for thinking that I'm capable of all the things I want to do.
Yeah, that's really good.
Like I feel like it definitely goes hand in hand with like the am I good enough to really be doing this stuff, or because like I don't know, I feel like I am. I feel like I should be, and I want to say I know all the things that I should be doing, but it's definitely that constant like back and forth battle of like you can't always be sure, because you're always like, am I actually good enough to be doing this stuff? Like what am I? And especially for me in my case, the 9 million things that I want to do, I really want to find proof that it's like no, you're capable of doing those things, you're good enough to do them, and like it's gonna work. Like so, yeah. I think that would be my thing.
Very relatable, yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. This one could be fun.
Okay.
So this is a wild card.
Oh,
so
fun.
It's different than the other ones. So I guess this is more worded for if we were playing in person, because it tells us to write down something. But for the sake of this, both players share an embarrassing fun fact about yourselves. Honestly, I already have mine.
Embarrassing fun fact. Okay, let me just think about if I want to share. Let me think about what I want to share. Right?
Yeah, keep in mind, it's not just us that will hear these answers. It is all the people who check out this episode.
Embarrassing fun fact. Oh.
Do you want me to share mine first?
Yeah.
So that maybe you know where the bar is? Of like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. So you set the bar here.
This might be a funny fact or not. I mean, it should be embarrassing, but I've told the story before. I pooped my pants in front of a grandma when I was 17 years old. 16 or 17. One of the two. Total accident. Not on purpose. Let me clarify that.
How did that happen?
So
Did you get sick or something?
So, to try and condense the story, this was when I still lived like down in my very small hometown where there wasn't a lot to do. Okay. So me and a couple of friends we were just walking around town one evening, and I was walking, and like it was me and my friend, and then we were with two girls. And of course, when I start getting rumblies in my tumbly, I don't want to sit and be like, "Hey girls, I think I have to poop."
Right.
So the way I remember it is like I kind of tried to secretly tell my friend like, "Hey, I need to run back to your house."
Yeah.
Because like I got to use the bathroom, but you guys just hang out, whatever. So I remember literally running back to his house because we were like close to his house. I ran back, and he lived like with his grandma at that point in time. Very nice lady. And luckily the door was unlocked because that was my first worry. But like I burst in the door, I'm ready to turn and dart to the bathroom, and his grandma strikes up a very long conversation with me.
No.
So she's like, "Hey Ross, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah." And you know what? I'm going to add some sound effects here. So to really let everyone know what happened. After she said, "Hey, how are you?" I don't remember anything she said. All I remember hearing was just poop noises. Because I'm not lying. I just exploded.
Oh, God.
And like, I have no idea. Like, and she was old enough that she couldn't hear it from the other side of the living room.
Well, that's helpful.
So, yeah. So I sat there as she asked me how my day was going.
God, you were just standing.
And I was like, "Hey, sorry, I really got to go to the bathroom," because like I couldn't get a word out. Like I was just like, "Yeah, okay." So then, I went to the bathroom, finished up, and actually tucked my dirty underwear in the bottom of his bathroom trash can.
That's fair. Yeah,
it never got found. It never got found.
That's great.
So there's my embarrassing story, an embarrassing fun fact. I pooped my pants as a 16-year-old person.
Okay. I'm so sorry that happened to me. Okay, mine's not, I don't know if mine's more of like a dumb thing that I did.
That's fine. Whatever works.
Okay, so when growing up, my mom is really strict about like, she didn't want me to dye my hair or get any like piercings or tattoos or anything, which is probably pretty standard across the board when it comes to moms. Like, I feel like the dyeing the hair is a little extreme. So when I was 18, I was like rebellious, but wanted to be secretive about it. So I got a lip tattoo, and like an inner lip tattoo. And
that's a big jump.
Yeah, it was really stupid. It was like really trendy at the time, which is like,
right, yeah.
It was a trendy thing. So I was like, I'll just do this. And at the time, I wasn't like drinking or smoking or anything, like, or you know what I mean. I had went through a party phase, and then in that time, I was like, straight edge, I guess you could say.
Right.
But I never said I was straight edge. But anyways, so I was like, what could I get that's like similar to that, but my own thing? So I got purity on my inner lip.
Really?
And the guy that did it was like on drugs, and it like looks so bad. So there's like the P is here, and there's a space, and then the rest of the word, and it's rough. It's really rough.
That's
and very embarrassing.
He just tattooed it with emphasis. It's purity. That's
I'm like
what
afraid. Every time I go to the dentist, I'm like just afraid because I'm like, they're gonna judge me for this.
Don't read it.
Please
just
don't ask me about this dumb decision. And I had just turned 18, so it was like
I love that your choice was like, I mean, you were 18, so getting a tattoo when you're 18 is kind of like everybody's like big, like, I want to do this. But I love that it was like, I'm going to rebel quietly, real quietly. It's like, that is actually...
I mean, my mom probably knows I have it at this point, but yes, that's what I did.
I love it. So, yes, at 18, you rebelled. You got a purity tattoo on your inner lip from a drugged out tattoo artist. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Yes, you purposely rebelled. My bowels just rebelled against me by accident. So that was...
God.
I love it. That was wonderful. Well, now that we've talked about purity, tattoos, and poopy pants, it's time for our last card. Okay. And then we're wrapping it up.
All right, great.
Okay, now that we've told the wild stories, back to like a real question on the card. What lesson took you the longest to unlearn?
Oh, to unlearn. Oh, man. There's so many. You go first on this one.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the same boat as you. I feel like there's 100 things. If I were to, like, mine's going to be very, very cliche, but I mean, maybe I'll give two. One example is in business, that, like, unlearning the whole, like, customer is always right mentality.
Yeah.
Especially in the world of, like, entrepreneurship and stuff. Like, quite frankly, customer is not always right. They're actually wrong most of the time.
Yeah.
But a really cliche one for me personally would probably be just like the idea of not worrying about making everybody else happy before yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good
like I think that is something that I if I were to say I unlearned something, like had to really work on.
Yeah.
That's probably my answer, because I definitely went, like, while I would always focus on like being myself and doing exactly what I wanted to do, I was still a people pleaser in a lot of ways, and would always I would like halfway conform to people around me, like I not all the way, but most of the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the last couple of years, I think I've definitely been able to just like cast that stuff aside and officially say that I unlearned that. So that would probably be mine. Is learning to put yourself before other people in the positive ways, and you know, that really self-care, self-love side of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's mine.
I would say mine is really similar. I feel like growing up, I was always a people pleaser too. And I never had boundaries and never said no to anything. So it was not until I really became a parent is when I was able to start saying no to stuff, because I have to, but also because, you know, for the sake of my kids in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And also taking care of yourself, because now that I'm so tired from parenting, you know, it is important to take care of myself and say, no, I'm too tired to do this or that, or even if it's, you know, a phone conversation with a friend, like, no, I need to speak. So yeah, I would say unlearning the people pleasing and learning how to set boundaries, for sure.
I love it. Well, Sarah, that was a little game of We're Not Really Strangers.
Great.
And I super appreciate, especially after everything you just said, being really particular and specific with your time. I super appreciate you being on the podcast again, since you've been on here like a handful of times. So that makes me appreciate and be so much more thankful that you are making time to do stuff like this and listen to me talk about pooping my pants, of all things.
I always love a good pooping pants story.
Do you hear them often?
Well, I have two little kids, so.
That's fair. You live in a pooping pants story.
Yes.
That's what happens.
It happens every day.
This was awesome.
This
Dude,
is great.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Yeah. It was great to talk to you. Catch up for now.
All right, everybody. I hope you liked that episode. I hope it was fun to listen to. I know it's a change in format for the show and pretty different, but truthfully, that was the point. You know, 50 episodes called for a special occasion and honestly a great excuse to play this game with people. Because I've owned the card game for quite some time now, but literally have not gotten to play it with anyone once. So it really made a lot of sense and worked out wonderfully to do for the show. And honestly, full disclosure, there were a few more conversations I had than just these ones, but for time reasons, they weren't going to all fit in one episode without making this like a 3 or 4 hour episode. So with that being said, I'll be back next episode with a follow-up of this same format. That's right, we're doing a 2-parter. I'm going to share the rest of the recorded games of We're Not Really Strangers in episode 51. So the celebration of hitting and breaking 50 episodes continues with number 51 with some more of these fun conversations. At least I think they were fun. So if you had fun hearing these talks, hearing us play this game and the cards and the answers that popped up, you're in luck because there's more coming your way. But if you happen to not like this episode, or you didn't like me playing this game with returning guests, and you just didn't like the episode in general, if you happen to hate it or this special format, well, sorry about your damn luck, because it's happening one more time in the next episode. So if you feel like you're just gonna skip that one, I actually challenge you to hop back into the show's archives and check out a past normal story episode that you've never listened to before. So that way you can get your What You Don't Hear fix for that week. And after that, it'll be back to our regularly scheduled program here on the show. So let's close this one out, though. I do want to say, before I say goodbye, just a huge thank you to every guest who was a part of this episode, or really any guest that was a part of any of the past 50 episodes I've now done. And of course, plus like all the 15-minute Friday conversations as well. 50 episodes is a lot, and I'm truly proud to have been doing this show for this long. 2 years and 50 episodes. That feels pretty good to say, if I'm being honest. And of course, the biggest of thank yous to you, to anyone who listens to this show, anyone who's subscribed on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, or, of course, has followed me on social media at WYDHpod. There's a plug. But if you've kept up with any of those things to keep up with the show and check out these releases and stuff, seriously, the biggest of thank yous to you. It is, of course, cliche to say, but even though I absolutely love making this podcast and I love meeting these people and having these conversations, it would truthfully be tough to keep doing it if absolutely nobody listened to it or liked it at all. So for that, you get my biggest of gratitude to any of you who are listening, and really for helping me make it to 50 episodes and hopefully 50s of more from here. So that is a wrap. Let's put a bow on it. That's a wrap for the 50th ep special. I will talk to you next episode, where I'll be back with some brand new guests you may or may not know of, as you know how it goes by this point, as they share their stories that you for sure never heard.